Hello and welcome to another Demon 212 VC review. Today I'm going to be having a look at Sin and Punishment. For those of you who don't know, Sin and Punishment is an on-rail shooter by the fantastic developer Treasure. It is previously unreleased in Japan. It's exclusive to the VC basically. If you want it in this country, you either had to get it on import or now, thankfully, you can get it in the VC. So that's pretty cool. It is the most expensive game so far in the VC, and a lot of people don't really think it's worth it because of the fact that it's an on-rail shooter. But before I get into that, I'll just quickly have a look here. Difficulty and all that you can choose. You can change between a couple sets of controls. The options menu, you have your unlockables, which are basically things like music tests, and you can also unlock higher difficulties. So there's not much to do there. You can go on a training mode, and you can select from any of your favourite scenes or stages, whatever you want to call them, after you've already beat them. So nothing much to do there. Going on to the actual game, as I said, it is an on-rail shooter, and obviously you've got your attack button, which is pretty much it. So there's no sub-attacks or anything like that. There's no different types of attacks with different buttons. You've just got the one button to do everything. So hold it down to fire. However, if an enemy comes up to you, which I'll try and show here, there you go. If you tap the button at the right time, then you will pull out your sword and do a bit of a slash on that, so that's pretty cool. But those are literally the only weapons you can get. You can't get any power-ups or anything. You can dodge left and right by double tapping along, so obviously if you double tap right, you'll dodge right and the likes. The way to control this game are the analogues and the D-pad. Basically, both of the analogues are your target cursor, so you can use whichever one you're most comfortable with, and the D-pad is actually how you move. There is a button to do a lock on, which, as you can see here, all you need to do really is just tap left or right to where the enemy is, and you can just cycle through all the different cursors. So if you wanted to be a bit lazy, you could use that, but really the best way to do it is to just have a bit of a free aim, especially on the bit larger, faster enemies, because sometimes the lock on just can't keep up with them. So there's not a huge amount of gameplay, to be totally honest with you. There's quite a few levels, loads of different set pieces and the likes, and at the end of every level you will face a boss. However, you can pretty much beat the game in about an hour and a half if you're not particularly that good. It's so not a huge game. It's one of those games that depends greatly on high scores for replayability, because while there is a two-player co-op mode, it's not probably what you'd expect. Instead of both of you being on the screen at the same time, like Gunstar Heroes, another great Treasure game, and you run around killing things, instead one of you controls the character. So for instance, I would be moving around now without the ability to fire, and my friend would have to move the cursor and fire for me. So not exactly great on the co-op skills. There will be sections, as you've just seen there, where you'll have to jump, so there is a jump button on it, which is quite good. So if you wanted to, you could just constantly jump a lot. The character says "ta-ta" every time he jumps, so for some unknown reason he either has a huge fixation on thanking people or asking for tartar sauce. Not only do you get a boss at the end of every level, you also come in contact during the level with some smaller, lesser, well, whereas there will be greater demons for the bosses, the normal ones will be lesser demons, not exactly anything at all challenging. You just pound into them, nothing you really have to think about, so it's just something that breaks up the gameplay a bit. Whereas the actual boss to a level sometimes can vary between having to actually really think about your attacks or time your attacks well. So the actual bosses do provide a bit of a challenge, however the sub-bosses don't. In between the things you get these little story sections, which the game is actually famous for having atrocious voice acting. It's the same as Castlevania Symphony of the Night, really.
Good morning, Saki. Good
morning,
Iron.
As you could probably hear there. So let's just skip that. Every 100 kills you do actually get an extra life or credit, whatever you'd want to call it. So at certain levels you can actually just stockpile your extra lives really badly. I say that because the game ends up becoming too easy, because whereas 3 or 4 lives would probably be all you'd lose, you'd end up having a look and seeing that you've got about 55 stockpiled because of a certain level. So, as I say, it's not exactly the hardest game, although you can unlock harder difficulties. So, if you after a challenge right from the start, this isn't really something that, well, it isn't really something that I can recommend to anyone. However, it is actually a very fun game. When I first got the game, I beat it several times in succession. I had huge fun with it, and it's something that I'll always come back to because it's the type of game I like. But I know loads of people really aren't fans of on-rail shooters and don't like going through them once, let alone replaying them. So, as I say, not exactly the greatest game in depth wise. So there we go then. That's been the review. I hope you found it helpful. I don't score the games because that's based purely on opinion, so instead I'll leave you to make your own mind up. So thanks for watching, and if you've got any questions about the game that I didn't answer in the vid or that hasn't been answered in the comments, then feel free to ask and I'll help if I can. Also, if you did find it helpful, don't forget to check out my channel because there's plenty more like this up there, and don't forget to subscribe because there'll be plenty more to come as well. So until next time, this has been Demon212, signing off.